After most bodybuilding shows, I would rebound. Rebounding is pretty much when you complete a dieting phase and you pretty much over time gain back the weight pretty rapidly post diet. And this can happen for a number of reasons, whether you're bodybuilding or not. And let's be real, if you're doing any type of cut and your goal is to build muscle, you are doing some level of physique building, but just more on like a lifestyle level, right? But, I was doing it obviously at the competitive level. And so, you're getting very lean, you're getting stage lean, right? It's not sustainable. It's not supposed to be sustainable. And, like it's like one of the kind of just things that I would do when I was like super deep into my cut is like I would just like have like a Pinterest board. I still have like a foodie Pinterest board, but I'm a foodie, y'all. So, prep was just like, I had to do what I needed to do, but your girl's a foodie. Like I literally had a board of all the foods that I couldn't wait to eat once my diet was complete. And that's a big mistake that a lot of competitors make, including me, and a lot of people who are exiting a dieting phase, right? Or maybe it's not even like a full dieting phase. You just like live in a diet and you don't really know how to live, for just healthy maintenance. Like you only know like what you know up until this point, right? Like the general things. And so going back to that, I would rebound. And so it would be pretty bad, like 20 pounds in a month. I remember I stepped on the scale and I was like, what the fuck did I do to myself? Like, what the fuck did I do? Like, I was like in 1 month, and obviously it's not all body fat, but that is very rapid, right? And of course, a lot of it is water, a lot of it is glycogen, but you can imagine the inflammation. I remember, my skin would be swollen just from like the overindulgence of carbohydrates and hyperpalatable foods. I just couldn't get my hunger hormones under control. And so that's why it's so important to have such a strong exit strategy post diet, and that you are, not living in a diet and you know how to live. And I did know how to do that, but again, I was competing. So that's another story. If you know, you know. And it's honestly not really talked about a lot in the at least, back then, like I always shared about like my binge eating and I'll be bloated as fuck every day. And it was just this toxic cycle of like eating 12 Nutella sandwiches at night back to back, sneaking to the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like my mom's probably wondering like, why does she keep going in the kitchen? You know what I mean? Like I just could not, like I just was overindulging like a motherfucker, right? And you have to understand as well that like half of this is psychological and is becoming a habit, and the other half of it is like, it's biological, right? It's like the hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin being, a little bit out of balance from just hardcore dieting. You know what I mean? This can also be just like, cortisol levels and the dopamine rush that you get from overindulging. And then it's just like spiking your blood sugar the next day. And so then what happens? You restrict, you try to fast, which only fucks with your blood sugar more. And then boom, it happens all again at night. And then you do cardio again for an hour. And you're like, oh, look, like I did, 600 calories, which by the way, no, you didn't. The treadmill is actually like they overestimate the calories by so much. And our bodies, the more that we do cardio over time, the more that our body adapts to it. So you just eat more and more and more and more and more. But over time, like you guys can see how like years of that can downregulate your metabolic rate. Staying on track here, I had gained a lot of weight pretty fast post-show. And I knew it, and I knew that other people knew it, and I felt very embarrassed. I felt very ashamed. I felt very vulnerable because I knew that people's initial thoughts were like, oh, what happened? Like, damn, like, didn't you just compete like fucking 3 weeks ago? Like, what if it, like, and I get it. Like, it's going to be a natural, like, down, but it also like the fact that I knew that people were thinking like, what happened? And it's nothing crazy, but again, guys, like, I was treating my body like a dumpster, and that is the effect of, very extreme dieting. So I'm sharing with you guys my story and how I turned that around and dealt with the poor body image that came with that and the poor health. And I really focused on, because all I wanted to do was cut. That's all I wanted to do. So we'll get into that in a second. So I just, like I just did not feel good. And I remember just like kind of being a little obsessive with the way that I looked in my body. And if you guys, have been there, and I know a lot of women and even men, like it's honestly pretty common. It's just not really talked about a lot, but I just like would put up, my video camera and see how I looked from all different angles, because I knew that I had put on, a little bit excess body fat. And I don't even have like a lot of pictures because I didn't want pictures. I felt embarrassed, you know what I mean? And like, I kind of got into this avoidance state. And I documented my entire vlog series. So I have a lot of like history with just binge eating in general. And so it's the binge eating that creates the rebounding. And there's a difference between binge eating and overeating, guys. Like I think definitely, and even I've made this mistake in the past of, there's overeating and to the point of like, oh my God, like I definitely like ate in a surplus, or like I, overindulged. And then there is binge eating, which is literally like to the point of sickness and overswelling, and it is usually followed by extreme restriction, and it's kind of the cycle. It's kind of like in my experience, like you black out a little bit. Like you're literally eating one meal. While you're making one meal, you're thinking about your next meal. As you're making your next meal, you're like trying to think about what else you can have. And so it's like, oh yeah, you gotta, have a definitely just solid. And like me and my coach at the time, we definitely did have like a solid exit strategy. I just think it's like, just psychological aspect of like, oh, the hard part is done, the cut is done, I did the show, like what's wrong with one cupcake turns into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, motherfucker 12. And to the point of like to that level is just like obviously, just from being so lean, which is why having body fat is fucking important. That's probably my body's subconscious way of like putting on body fat because I needed it. And granted, my body did, the swelling did go down, and I did start to like learn to really fall in love with, my body in that phase, but it wasn't like an easy process. And so it really challenged me because I had went from like shredded as fuck to like inflamed as fuck in such a short period of time, and it overwhelmed me mentally. I wanted to get quote unquote control of it. And I think a lot of times people may think, and you guys may not think this, but like coaches, oh, you're a coach, like you're a coach, so like that wouldn't happen to you. No, it happens to everybody, right? And so even I had a coach, and I was a coach at the time, and I still struggled with post-show rebound, and it definitely got a little bit better and better and better over time, but it's just something that I just was like kind of like used to doing. And so over time, I feel like as you do more healthier, sustainable, strategized calorie deficits with solid exit strategies, that can really set you up for success. And a lot of times we just don't have that, and it creates this either slow and steady weight regain. And again, like all weight gain is not made the same, right? Like, we can have weight gain that we want and like looks good on our body, right? And then we have like no inflammation, water retention, swelling, poor gut health from my, what I'm overindulging in. And like, y'all know me, I'm all about flexibility. I'm all about food freedom. Like I went through that, right? Like I recovered from, just binge eating and the toxic cycles of overeating. Well, mine was binge eating, but binge eating and restricting, to now having and build and just understanding how to hold my body through that, and how to properly strategize and get the support where I need. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but essentially, guys, I was pretty challenged with just that scenario in general. And so I remember I was in my bathroom and I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I remember I was like slouching and like just sitting in like really unflattering positions. Isn't that weird? Like like, why do we do that? Like, when we don't feel great about our bodies, right? And I do think a lot of this has to do with the way that you feel inside as well, like with your internal health. Because I know for a fact, if my gut is fucked, like I feel like shit, I have no energy, like I keep, I'm in this cycle, I'm not gonna feel good, right? So anyway, like I was sitting in these unflattering positions and I was just like, I'm doing 2 hours of cardio tomorrow and I'm not going to eat until 2 p.m. and I'm going to, fast and I'm going to, only eat protein and vegetables. And I'm going to do that just for like 5 to 7 days. And, that'll just help me get like this excess weight off and then I'll be able to maintain. Girl, like again, this is past versions of Lexi who struggled with disordered eating coming through, even though I am a coach, right? A well-knowledgeable coach, right? It's like these versions of, I still to this day, it's crazy. Like I'll still have these different versions of myself come through. And maybe that happens for you as well, where you've grown so much, but you still have these like kind of past versions of you that come up and kind of want to take control. And it's just in those moments where we work with that part of ourselves that's a little bit scared and a little bit triggered, right? Instead of like avoiding it, right? It's like, no, like how can we deal with it? So I remember just looking at myself in the mirror and feeling like, I was sitting in all these like uncomfortable positions and I was like, what the fuck? Like I was just kind of just so mad at myself for like just doing this to myself. And it was in the moment where I felt like I just immediately just started to apologize to my body. I just went from like, I'm going to do this and this and that. And like, kind of like going from this place of self-punishment and like, no, like this is what we're going to do. Like, ooh, my body is scared as fuck right now. Like that's not going to help. Like you know what I mean? And so it's like, when I actually apologize to my body, yes, like I'm creating this external relationship with me, myself, and like my body as like a separate entity. Is just like my body, really the best way I can explain it is like I just looked at myself in the mirror, and this is what we would call mirror work, right? This is just when you're looking at yourself in the mirror. It's very powerful, and it can also reveal a lot about like your subconscious beliefs, and like you don't have to be scared of these parts of you. Like that's such a big thing. It's just like we can sometimes like even in our spiritual journeys just be like so like positive like all the time, like no, like got to keep my vibe high, or like don't talk about like I don't want to feel bad, like I don't want to look at these things because they make me feel bad about myself. It's like, no, like that is the part of us that we need to look at the most. When we learn to lean into the dark parts of ourselves and like be like, why the fuck can't I look at myself in the eyes? Like why can't I look into my own eyes? What am I afraid of seeing? And working with those parts of you. And I could do a whole podcast episode around shadow work, and this is just really like a psychoanalytical practice that you can do with yourself. But I definitely would love to get into shadow work, because me especially, like my Pisces ass, like I definitely have had the history of just like, no, like things, need to feel good, or if they don't feel good, then that's bad, right? And it's like, no, like when these things come up, it's to signal to you what can be healed. And it's an opportunity to look at things with a different perspective that can actually bring you more inner peace. And so this was what started to bring me inner peace, was looking at my eyes, looking into my own eyes in the mirror, and really just looking beyond the skin suit, right? Like the skin suit that is my body, and not avoiding it, not ignoring it. And I just started to wrap was just happening like intuitively. Like I just started to like wrap my hands around my arms. Wait, what? Like my arms around my body. Like I was hugging myself. And I just started to hug myself and like rub my body. And I was just doing this intuitively, like just hugging myself. And I just started to be like, I'm so sorry to my body, like to myself, like to my body, to where I was just dropping the ball and maybe not asking for help and like hiding my disordered eating habits and not telling my coach that I was struggling with binge eating. So then he didn't know like to make the proper adjustments. And so I kept struggling on the back end and trying to take control on the back end by like literally doing my own fucking thing. And it's like, no, like you have a coach for a reason, right? And I trusted my coach. He was amazing. And so shout out Team Fit Destiny. But you know, I just started to just honestly just have a lot of unconditional love for myself. And I just apologized to my body because it wasn't my body's fault. It wasn't my body's fault that I was eating 12 Nutella fucking sandwiches, and it wasn't my fault. It doesn't make me bad or wrong. It's that, you know, this is what it is. And now this is what it is. And so now, you know, my body, like, you know, my hunger hormones, you know, being offset a little bit, you know, lack of communication, you know, having more of like a fawn nervous system response, like with coaches, you know what I mean? Just kind of like, yeah, you know, everything's good. It's like, no, like you're fucking binge eating, right? And my coach did know, but I don't think to the extent that like, you know, like he definitely was seeing the data and was confused as fuck. And like, I was a lot younger too. So, I was just like scared. But there was nothing to be scared about. Again, all my own fucking things. And so anyway, guys, going back to like how I, you know, work to like heal my body image. Okay, there's so much power in being able to be a little bit delusional. Okay. And so I literally, after I started to give myself unconditional love and just like, I just was kind of comforting myself, instead of sitting in these uncomfortable fucking positions and making myself look worse because I was obsessed with like just the added body fat and inflammation that I had put onto my body and just kind of like being really nitpicky with myself. And I don't really understand the psychology behind that, but I'm sure it had to just do with like, you know, when you have like something that's just like bothering you, it's like I don't know, focus on it more. But I started to actually like work with it, you know, like with my bloated belly and everything. Like I just started to work with it in the mirror, you know. I just started to like actually like, you know, puff up my chest and, you know, slightly tilt up my chin and actually like gently place my hands on my hips and like actually work with my body. I mean, if you look at art from like, you know, I don't fucking know the eras, the Renaissance, the Victorian, I don't motherfucking know, but like y'all know what I'm talking about. Like their bodies were, you know, curvy and, you know, they had little bellies and like, it's like that was desirable and it's still desirable, but y'all know like with social media these days, you know, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Like we have to, it's our responsibility to use discernment online and to really like unfollow those who like might be great, but just like don't like, they don't really give you any value, and really follow women that are really inspiring and realistic. Right. And I try to, you know, do my best to really share that with you guys as well. And so it's really like, perspective. And that might sound really fucking annoying to some people, and that's okay. Because everybody has their own things and their own history and their own demons and your own, like, there's spectrums to this shit. You know what I mean? But one thing that I knew for sure was that a cut wasn't, as much as I wanted to just cut and like lose the body fat and like get myself to a more comfortable place, it, as a coach, like as my nervous system got more regulated and I started to be a little bit more logical, I'm like, that is going to just create more, that's going to put gasoline on the fire. You know, like if I was a client coming to me and I had rebounded post-show or post-diet and, you know, I just really wanted to jump into a cut, that's not what the steps that I would take. And, you know, I would keep it real with them and I would be like, hey, like we can absolutely reduce inflammation. We can absolutely improve your gut health. We can absolutely start working to reduce stressors that are making you constipated, right? You know, little things like that. Break free, little things like that. We can absolutely experience that internal health, like improved markers there. And set you up for like a healthy fat loss phase in the future when you do want to cut. And so the cut's not going anywhere. But right now we need to really regulate things, and we need to really make sure that we're creating a solid foundation, not just metabolically, not just mentally, but also physically, right? And psychologically. Well, I guess I did just say mentally, but y'all get the idea. And so that didn't mean that I didn't have my uncomfortable moments, you know what I mean? Like, because of this, I was still eating at maintenance, and so, I had extra body fat on me that I, which just wasn't really accustomed to, and I had allowed my body to just settle out. And I we all have like our own levels of comfort within like how we feel in our body. And I feel like for me, it had surpassed that. And so when I was eating, right, like I would feel a little bit bloated, and I just would have moments, of course, where I definitely felt like, oh my God, like I just want to cut. I just want to, just cut right now. But again, I regulate myself, and I would zoom out to the bigger picture. And I know that the cut's not going anywhere. I'm still going to be able to do that. But for right now, we need to still focus on regulating my hunger cues, regulating my appetite, regulating my digestion, and, really regulating my blood sugar levels, like all these little things, being consistent. And so it really gave me the opportunity, despite the uncomfortable moments sometimes, it really gave me the opportunity to really learn how to truly have unconditional love for my body in all the phases, and understand that my body didn't just like, oh my God. And I'm talking about internal health here. I really want to focus on internal health, because at the end of the day, like, I'm sure that the body fat percentage I was at, I still, felt pretty confident sometimes because of the muscle that I had. So the muscle created really great shape, but it was the internal health effects as well of just like the trying to like restrict, and because I was kind of just, again, like those past versions of yourself are coming through and just like wanting to take control. Boom, it backfires, and you're kind of stuck in that cycle, right? Until you regulate itself out like over time. And so for me, it was like, this is what my body needs. I owe my body that. Like, that would be so fucking fake to just apologize to my body and be like, oh my God, body, I'm so sorry that I did this to us. And like, you don't deserve punishment. And, the way that just like, thank you so much for all that you do for me beyond the way that I look, or, whatever society has, put on me to believe that is desirable or worthy or whatever. But we gonna cut tomorrow, and we gonna do some cardio tomorrow, and we gonna eat clean. Like, that would be such bullshit. So it's like, no, like, you have to honor your word. And it's like, okay, well, we gonna do this shit. So I'm very proud of myself though for, holding myself through that, really focusing on, and again, I have this like all documented on my YouTube channel. My skin also kind of like played a role in that as well. And honestly, like, I'm still on like a gut health journey. And it really just goes back to like, I'm a foodie, and like, I just like to have, like, I just want to have some fucking things that I want to have sometimes, especially if it fits my macros. And even sometimes those, like, in little amounts, it will affect my gut. And so it's like, damn, so it's a journey, and it's always going to be a journey. But fast forward now to today, like, really just looking back, I'm really proud of myself. And if you are somebody who's in that position where you are prolonging, or are in the position where that the right step is probably, and if you guys need more help, you can always DM me, and we can hop on a 10-15 minute call to chat a little bit more and see, what would be the best next steps for you and like where you're at. But most important thing is just like, if you're in that position where you're prolonging, like, it's kind of like for the greater good type situation, and you're really in this area of life where you're being challenged to really lean into learning how to love your body in all its phases, and learning how to love your body for all that she does for you, versus just for like what you look like, right? Or what it looks like, however the fuck, whatever resonates with you. and peeling back like the conditions that are placed upon us, especially as women, on like what is desirable. And you can absolutely work on yourself. I'm a fucking lifestyle, habit, and physique building coach for women. And so a lot of the women that I work with, they want to build a healthy lifestyle. They want to heal their relationship with food. They want to understand their macros and, you know, what it looks like not to diet, but they also want to lose body fat and build muscle and create like the fit curve physique like for themselves and healthiest version of themselves. And so a little bit of that is like physique building, right? But it never has to go to extremes. It really doesn't. And if you really want to do something about it, it's going to take a long-term vision and a big picture mindset. And it's really just kind of like panicking because you're uncomfortable where you're at, which again, I understand, I get it. But look at even the track history of that, right? Like the more drastic, aggressive, and hard you go at it for short periods of time, it 9 times out of 10 results in a slow and steady regain over time, or just a total rebound. Or you just plateau and you don't really get to like your goal, but you lost the weight, you know, you lost a lot of muscle maybe, and like, you know, now you're plateaued and like you're just so afraid to like eat at maintenance or like eat enough, calories for your body. So then you end up overeating. Right? These are all like just different ways that it can show up. And, it really just gives you the opportunity to see beyond that, right? Beyond the skin. And you can absolutely still work on yourself. But this is the first step. This is the first step. And honestly, guys, like when I coach women through this, like, it honestly just benefits you so much more mentally. Like, yeah, you might have, you're still going to recomp, you might recomp, you might, just have to deal with a little bit of weight regain that has to happen hormonally or metabolically, depending on where you're at. And, everybody's at a different place in their journey. And if you need a reverse diet or a maintenance phase, right? Ideally, if you are like lifting though and like getting in your steps, like, you can create that body recomposition, and that's like usually the goal. But depending on where you're at, if you're chronically under eating or if you're used to like restrictive dieting and a lot of cardio, that can definitely create like that just fear of like, oh my God, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. But one thing that I really found to be true for me throughout the process of healing my body image was that I created such a deeper intimacy with my body. I had more respect for my body. And it just created a deeper intimacy where it's like, I feel like a lot of the times when we're really disconnected from ourselves, or we have a lot of wounds that haven't been really healed or looked at with our body image, and maybe the conditionings that were placed upon us from our family or friends, or just even fucking random people. That shit's weird. People who comment on your body and weight are fucking weirdos, dog. Like weirdos. Like I just think it's weird. Like if anybody ever comments on your body or weight, just say to their face, that's like very weird. Like that's strange. Just don't do that. It's weird. Anyway, I said some funny shit in my head, but I'm not gonna say it. I might get reported. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, guys. So it really gives you the opportunity to just get curious around that, and eventually you will get to the place where you can pull the trigger on a cut, and metabolically and mentally you're in that healthy place, and your gut health is healed, and your hormones are healed, and you'll of course like reduce inflammation, like all of those things. But for the greater good of your body, sometimes you have to shift your focus on the little things that a lot of us overlook. And then incrementally over time, you create just this deeper intimacy with your body, and a deeper respect, and a deeper intimacy is the best word I can explain it. And you really can heal and get to where you want to be physically, aesthetically as well, in the long term. So That's pretty much it, guys. I have 30 seconds left. I had to actually re-record this podcast episode because the other one didn't have sound. But if this resonated with you or helped you in any way, if you got a laugh, it would help me so much to share it and let me know. I love hearing from you guys. It honestly just motivates me even more, or even leave a review or rating. But thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. And, if you apply anything, I have 4 seconds left, so actually I can't say anything. So bye.